What if I told you that the world's most popular sport started with drunk villagers kicking around a pig's bladder through muddy streets, and that it was so violent, kings tried to ban it for centuries? Today, I'm going to tell you the absolutely insane true story of how football really began. Trust me, this is nothing like what you think you know. Welcome to Where and How It Started. We're talking about mass brawls with hundreds of players, games that lasted entire days, and a sport so brutal that people regularly died playing it. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a football the same way again. But first, let me paint you a picture of medieval England. Picture this. It's the year 1314. You're walking through a small English village when suddenly you hear shouting, screaming, and what sounds like a riot. But this isn't a riot. This is football. Medieval football. Imagine hundreds of men from neighboring villages meeting in the middle of nowhere. No rules, no referee, no field boundaries. Just one goal: get that pig's bladder ball to the other village by any means necessary. We're talking about games that covered entire countrysides, lasted from dawn to dusk, and looked more like medieval warfare than any sport you'd recognize today. The ball they were fighting over? Literally an inflated pig's bladder wrapped in leather. Why pig bladders? Well, they were the perfect size, naturally round when inflated, and surprisingly durable. Plus, what else were medieval people going to do with pig bladders? Waste not, want not. But here's where it gets crazy. This wasn't the football you know. There were no offside rules, no fouls, and definitely no red cards. Players would punch, kick, bite, and tackle each other with no mercy. Broken bones were common. Deaths? They happened regularly. One historical account from 1280 describes a game where a player was so badly injured that he died of his hurt. Another record tells of a man who was accidentally stabbed during a match in 1321. These weren't isolated incidents. They were part of the game. The matches were absolute chaos. Imagine a rugby scrum, but it covers an entire village, involves 300 people, and lasts 8 hours. Houses got damaged, crops got trampled, and innocent bystanders got caught in the mayhem. What made it even more insane? These games often happened between rival villages, so old grudges and territorial disputes got settled on the field. It was part sport, part community warfare, and completely out of control. The violence got so bad that kings started banning football entirely. In 1314, King Edward II issued the first official ban, calling it hustling over large footballs and declaring it a public nuisance. His exact words were that the game caused noise in the city caused by hustling over large balls from which many evils might arise. But here's the kicker. People didn't care. They kept playing anyway. So Edward III banned it again in 1349, then Richard II banned it in 1389, then Henry IV banned it in 1401. We're talking about a sport so popular that it survived multiple royal bans across different centuries. Why were kings so desperate to stop it? Well, apart from the obvious chaos and violence, they had a military concern. They wanted their men practicing archery for warfare, not wasting time kicking pig bladders around. There was a famous saying, "Football takes away from archery practice." But the people loved their chaotic football too much to give it up. It became an act of rebellion against authority. The more kings banned it, the more popular it became. So how did we get from this medieval mayhem to the beautiful game we know today? Well, that transformation took centuries and started in the most unlikely place: elite English schools. In the 1800s, prestigious schools like Rugby, Eton, and Harrow each had their own version of football. But here's the problem. When students from different schools wanted to play each other, chaos ensued because everyone played by different rules. At rugby school, you could pick up the ball and run with it. At Eton, that was completely forbidden. Some schools allowed unlimited players, others restricted numbers. Some games were played on massive fields, others in tiny courtyards. It was a mess. The turning point came in 1848 when students from different schools met at Cambridge University and said, "Enough is enough. We need standard rules." This meeting became known as the Cambridge Rules, the first attempt to create a unified version of football. But even then, there was a massive argument. One group wanted to allow handling the ball. This eventually became rugby, while another group wanted a foot-only game. This became association football, or soccer, as Americans call it. The Great Football Split happened on October 26, 1863. Picture this dramatic scene. Representatives from 11 clubs met at the Freemasons Tavern in London. The tension in that room must have been incredible. On one side, you had the rugby football supporters who wanted to keep the violent, hands-on game. On the other side, the association football supporters wanted a more civilized, feet-only version. The debate got heated. The rugby supporters argued that removing handling would make the game boring and soft. The association supporters argued that the current game was too dangerous and chaotic. When the vote came down, association football won by a narrow margin. And just like that, modern football was officially born. The rugby supporters stormed out and created their own sport, which is why we have both rugby and football today. But here's what's fascinating. They still use pig bladders for balls. It wasn't until the 1860s that vulcanized rubber was invented, giving us the first proper footballs. Before that, every match started with someone literally inflating a pig's bladder. Now here's where the story gets really interesting. British sailors, merchants, and colonists started spreading this new association football around the world. But each country that adopted it added their own cultural twist. In Brazil, they made it more artistic and rhythmic. In Germany, it became more tactical and organized. In Argentina, it became more passionate and skillful. What started as violent village chaos in medieval England became the world's universal language. The first international match was played in 1872 between England and Scotland. The score? 0-0. After centuries of evolution, from pig bladders to proper rules, the first official international game ended in a goalless draw. You can't make this stuff up. By 1904, FIFA was founded with just 7 countries. Today it has 211 member associations, more than the United Nations. A sport that kings tried to ban for centuries had become the most popular activity on planet Earth. From pig bladders to Premier League, from royal bands to billion-dollar broadcasts, from village chaos to World Cup glory, football's journey is absolutely incredible. What started as drunk villagers kicking animal organs through muddy streets became the sport that unites and divides billions of people worldwide. And honestly, I think those medieval players would be pretty proud of what their chaotic game became. If you enjoyed this crazy origin story, make sure to subscribe because I've got tons more where it all started stories that will blow your mind. What sport or invention should I cover next? Let me know in the comments below.